Hello and welcome to Sunrise Cardcast, your one-stop podcast shop for all things hockey cards. My name is Eric Andrews, also known in the hobby as Hammerhawks, and I'm joined by my co-host and fellow hobbyist Aaron Goldstein, better known throughout the hobby as Crease Collector. So, as has been the case the last couple of years, the last episode that we put out every year is just kind of a recap of the year as a whole, looking back on some hobby goals and resolutions, some of our pickups, and then also looking forward to the upcoming year. So, starting things off for the episode, we're going to go through our 2022 hobby goals and resolutions that we had set a year ago and just kind of go through those one by one and see how we did. So, Aaron, I will let you start and take it away.
Definitely. So it's been another really awesome year, I think, for just the hobby in general, but I think us personally. And we're here to discuss it on the podcast because you guys hopefully will find enjoyment out of it. Okay. So review of 2022, like kind of our goals and what we kind of set out to do and if we passed or failed. And then at the end of the episode, we're going to sort of wrap up what we hope to accomplish in 2023. So for 2022, my main goals was to get the Emerald collection to 700 total cards, which I successfully completed. Number 700 is incoming, so I can definitely check that one off the list. Next up was to complete my Upper Deck 300 Win Club set. I'm just down to needing the Ed Belfour and the Kiprusoff card. Those have been just a major fail. I think I saw the Belfour listed about a month ago, and that was, I think, the first time I saw it listed all year. And the Kiprusoff just nowhere to be found. Just these cards from the original set there in 2012 are pretty hard to find, and they usually go for quite a bit more than I'm willing to pay. So maybe you can find one a little cheaper next year, but definitely this year it was for sure a fail. So next up was expand my vintage goalie collection. This one was another fail as well. Just other things sort of captured my attention this year, so it's something that hopefully I can continue on next year. And the next one was just have fun. It's super corny, insert all your corn emojis here, but definitely had a lot of fun with this hobby this past year. Picked up a lot of cool things, which we'll have a quick little rundown in a second. But overall, it was fantastic. I attended both of the expos this year as well. So just tons of fun overall. And just been a lot of fun. So that would be for sure a triple check on, the have fun portion of 2022 for me. So yeah, like that sort of wraps up what I guess accomplished this year. We'll go into more details on, what we snagged, but I think overall it was a really good year as far as what I set to accomplish and what I eventually did. So I think all around good news for me.
Yeah, definitely. And I would even say for your vintage goalie card collection, I mean, I know it's maybe not specifically a card, but I remember the Jacques Plante Beehive ad that you got at the expo recently. I mean, that
Right.
definitely goes into
I
that
guess
for
that's
sure.
true. Yeah, it's not really a card per se, but I would say, yeah, it's definitely, a vintage item to add to the goalie collection overall. So I guess that's, kind of like half true, I guess. So I guess I can maybe give myself a half a check mark on that.
Yeah, it's a little something for sure. So for me, I didn't have quite the same amount of success with my hobby goals and resolutions that Aaron did. If you guys remember, I had set three, with the first being to reach 75 podcast episodes. Obviously, with this being episode 71, that did not happen.
We're getting there
Um,
though.
we're close, but it was just kind of a hard year as far as work commitments and just some other things throughout the year that kind of made it difficult to record and especially edit and publish episodes in a timely fashion. So didn't quite get to that, but we're close. So as the rule was written, it was a fail, unfortunately. My second one was finish at least one notable 2003-04 set for my 03-04 Master Collection. Again, I did not achieve that, unfortunately. Not that I wasn't trying to, it's just that I think I had specifically mentioned 03-04 Premier Collection and 03-04 Be a Player Ultimate Memorabilia. And the cards that I still needed for those, I think for Premier, there was maybe one of the three cards left that I need that came up that I would have gone after that I just didn't even see the listing, unfortunately. Had I seen it, I definitely would have made sure to get the card, but I just didn't even see it until it was too late. And then didn't see the other. Well, I saw copies of the other two cards, but I'm being really picky with the patches for those RPAs that I still need. So, unfortunately, nice copies just didn't really show up this year. So unfortunately couldn't finish that set. And then the Be a Player Ultimate Memorabilia set, the limited autos out of 19 that I still need, I just can't find them. at least a few of them. There's a Mario Lemieux on eBay that is grossly overpriced, so that will never happen. But the other ones I just can't find anywhere. So again, not without trying, but couldn't quite accomplish that goal just because if you can't find the cards, you can't accomplish the goal. So there's that. And then the last one, which I guess was probably the most in my control, I guess, would be getting my office set up. Haven't gotten around to that just because there's some repair work that I need to do on the ceiling in the office first before I really feel like I can set stuff up. I mean, I could, but then it's like, okay, I set stuff up and then take it down to do the repairs and then set it all back up again. That just doesn't really feel worthwhile. So, kind of just waiting until getting around to the repair work first. So, I'm very much hopeful that that will be something that happens in 2023, as I will touch on later on. But yeah, those are my three things. So, unfortunately, I failed on all three of them. But, looking at the year as a whole, that doesn't mean that the year as a whole was a failure. Fortunately, as you guys will see, I was able to pick up a lot of really nice stuff from my collection and kind of some things that just kind of redirected my focus and my resources for this year. So yeah, that was my goals and resolutions for 2022. Kind of sad to say that I failed all of them, but it is what it is. But I'm still really happy with how 2022 went. So turning to kind of the potentially the most fun part of the episode, that being showing off our top 10 pickups of 2022. Because really, I think we both had really, really good years for our collection, and you guys will see why in a few minutes here. So I'm going to let Aaron start off with his number 10 pickup, and then we'll just alternate back and forth as we work our way up our list.
Definitely. So for me, number 10 was an Expo pickup. It was 0203 Upper Deck Mass Collection, Nation's Best of Patrick Waugh, Marty Brodeur, and Felix Potvin. Just a typical, triple jersey card, but it was just a design that I've always really, really enjoyed and just never could find it at the right price, I guess you could say. And so just seeing one at the Expo for a very fair price, I think, what, it's just one of those show pickups, as Eric always calls them, ones that you don't really set out to get, but they're kind of there and you're like, okay, you know what? I didn't really expect to see that card, and you know what? It's fair price. So that's a really cool buy right there. So that would be my first top 10 pickup of the year.
Yeah, that was definitely a fun one that I know you really enjoyed being able to find, being from a set that you had been hoping to get a card from for many, many years. So that was definitely a really fun one to hear about. My number 10, and I'll preface this by saying that I tried really hard to slim down my list compared to last year because I was definitely kind of cheating last year. I kind of had like categories last year, and I still kind of have some categories this year. That's just truly unavoidable. But last year, I think I had 35 total things that were featured throughout my list, and this year is much less than that. So just wanted to be upfront with that. I know that was probably a little bit of a cop out last year, so I wanted to try my best to slim it down this year. So for my number 10, this is not a big dollar piece by any means, but just a card that I think is really, really cool and meaningful for my collection. That being the 2020-21 SP Authentic Sign of the Times Black autograph of Nicholas Hjalmarsson. And that being because it has the inscription of the hammer on the card. And still to this day, that is the only card that he has that highlights his nickname of the hammer. And Aaron and I were talking about this recently, but I almost just assumed that the brand new 21-22 SP Game Used embroidered and history cards would have something to do with that, and they don't. And that was very disappointing. So still to this day, the SP Authentic Sign of the Times Black autograph is still the only card that features his nickname. So yeah, just for that reason, it's a really cool card for my collection. And I think I actually have 3 copies of it at this point, which is really fun too. It's one of those cards that, since it kind of has that extra meaning for my collection and just highlights something really cool and unique, that I've kind of gone out of my way to pick them up when I see them and if they're reasonably priced. So I do have 3 of those that I was able to pick up throughout the year. But yeah, that's my number 10.
Awesome. Those Sign of the Times Blacks are just really nice cards. I mean, nickname aside, I just really enjoy those cards. So, kudos to you for picking up not only one of them, but quite a few. That's really sweet. Number nine was a pickup that I shared actually about the Expo. It was the 0809 Upper Deck Masterpieces Brushstrokes Auto of Manon Rhéaume, just a card that I've been looking for again for quite a few years. Bid on that one specifically and just have keep losing out to it, or just the card being listed at just really high of a price point and just could never really land one, and found this one at the Expo again just randomly. It was great price, and it's just an awesome addition to my goalie collection. I just think she was such a big pioneer of the sport, the goaltending position, and I just really wanted one of her autographs in the collection, and to finally find one is very cool. And the card itself looks amazing, and just really like that set, and just so that was just a really cool pickup, one that I did not expect at all, and yeah, it was a great card, and I'm really glad to feature it here at number 9.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say that's honestly almost like an iconic hockey card. Like that specific autograph card from that specific set and product, is just a card that everybody wants. So the fact that you're finally able to track one down is awesome. For my number 9, this is kind of one of those that's like a category almost, but I feel like it still works. It's 5 things kind of combined into one, that being the 2003-04 Topps Pristine boxes. And obviously, I mean, you guys are well aware at this point, I love that product. And the fact that I was able to find not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 boxes of that stuff was unbelievable. And obviously you guys have seen, opened a box for myself, did a group break as well. So, have been enjoying those for sure. So not too much to unpack there. It's pretty self-explanatory, straightforward, but just being able to find those boxes was so amazing. And I'm so glad that I was able to get those.
Definitely. That product was just awesome. And I'm so glad that we got to open some on the podcast. We did a group break as well. So, I mean, just seeing the cards come out of there, just pure nostalgia, and just from really limited product too, and definitely a product that you don't see broken too often. So that was a really cool experience there. My number 8 is one I just received a couple days ago, actually. And it's kind of like out of left field a little bit, but it's from 06-07 in the game International Ice, game used jersey card of Vladislav Tretiak. And it has like a sweet little Soviet Union jersey swatch there. So really is like just a pure piece of history. And just I've always wanted like a Tretiak piece. I mean, I think when people refer to him, they usually just say he's the best goalie to never play in the NHL. And I think that's definitely correct. Seeing what he's done during those international games, just one of the best goalies I think to ever play. And just to get a card of him with some memorabilia on it from those iconic teams is just really, really cool. So, wanted a piece of his for a while, and finally was able to cross that one off the list. So a really new kind of last minute pickup for 2022, but one that makes the cut in this top 10.
I mean, you can't go wrong with the Tretiak memorabilia card.
You can't. And also with, in the game, International Ice, I mean, I just really enjoyed that set. Anything kind of older in the game is just really nice. So
yes,
really sweet card.
Definitely. So yeah, glad that you were able to finally add a Tretiak to your collection. Yeah, I remember I kind of had a phase where I would pick up Tretiak stuff, and it's kind of one of those guys that every single time you get something of them, it's just like you feel this like sense of like mystique around him.
Like whoa,
yeah, it's just it's different than like even like a Brodeur or a Wall. Like it just has a different feel. So I'm glad that you were able to experience that. My number 8, again, kind of a unique thing, something you don't see every day for sure. And, something that as soon as I heard about it, just thought it was a really cool idea. That being from President's Choice Solid Gold, one of the handwritten word cards of Lord Stanley. And again, just super unique, something that I don't think had been done prior to Solid Gold, cutting out actual handwritten words from a document that Lord Stanley wrote himself. And, obviously the copy of the card that I have having the word "right" is very fitting for the insert set. So yeah, just a card that I was very, very happy to get and add to my collection, and just a really, really cool card.
Leave it to Dr. Price to kind of reinvent the wheel all these years later. I know he made a splash, within the game and be a player and things like that way back in the day, but seeing him sort of still continue to bring that innovation to hockey cards all these years later is just really a breath of fresh air. So those cards, that concept is just really, really fun and really is also, just a piece of history. And just so glad that you were able to find, a card from that cool little new. It's kind of hard to say anything new nowadays, but a truly new set. So huge congrats on that. Rolling down the list here, my number 7 is also starting to get into the President's Choice stuff. So this one was a card, again, I recently did pick up. It's from the new In the Crease product from President's Choice, and that is the nameplate card. And this features the letter R from Enroth's name, and it is, of course, a 1/1. Just seeing new jersey material of his sort of re-enter the market is always really cool. Don't have very much LA pieces, aside from, a game used jersey. So to get that in sort of card form is just sort of another layer to the collection, which had previously not existed. So I'm always a big fan of letter cards. I don't think I'm going to go for the full name, but yeah, just a really cool pickup, so super new, but yeah, it definitely makes the top 10 for me.
No doubt. I mean, letter cards are always really, really cool, and definitely glad that you're able to find one so quickly, out of this product, and definitely a cool one for your collection for sure. My number 7, again, we're continuing that President's Choice theme here. I'm again going back to solid gold, that being the George Vezina Marc-Andre Fleury Vezina Trophy winner card from the product. And, as soon as solid gold was being developed, and I knew that it would kind of have an expanded and updated checklist for those trophy winner cards compared to the Vezina collection. Obviously Fleury won the Vezina after Vezina collection had already come out, so he wasn't included in that product, of course. But Solid Gold came out earlier this year, and so obviously Fleury was able to be included this time around. So knowing that was a card that I knew I really wanted to get for my collection, and fortunately enough was able to find one on eBay for a pretty reasonable deal back in the spring, somewhat shortly after the product came out. I think it was maybe a couple weeks or something after that, but really like the Fleury stick piece on that, and then having that one stitch on the Vezina pad cloth piece is really cool as well. So, and really nice cards in person too, I might add. Scans don't really do them justice. So yeah, again, a card that when I first, became aware that it was going to exist was one that I knew I had to have for my collection. So being able to add that to my collection definitely felt good.
I mean, this. I mean, like anything of Marc-Andre Fleury, I'm obviously a big fan. So anytime you pick up a card of his, I'm always just like drawn to it that much more. Obviously it's someone that I collect as well, and just been a fan of his game. Just like obviously being a goalie, just big fan of the guy. So like definitely a huge pickup, to sort of see his new Vezina milestone in his career, and then sort of quite quickly, tack on a card in relation to that into the collection is always just really solid. So we'll get into more President's Choice stuff later, but we're going to take a break. And in my number 6 spot is actually a game used jersey. And this is from 2016. It's a game used Toronto Maple Leafs home and away set. I picked these up at the expo, had no idea they had these available. I just sent a quick little inquiry and just sort of got kind of like a non-answer and just didn't even know what to expect. But I visited the Real Sports booth, and luckily they had these put aside for me, which was just really solid of the guys to do that, and was able to make the purchase there. So the significance is the white away jersey is actually Enroth's final NHL game played. So quite a cool career milestone there. And, to have not only that one, but of course, the matching home jersey as well of my hometown Toronto Maple Leafs jerseys is just really cool in many different ways. So just huge pickup. Didn't expect to even find them. I didn't know they really existed. I thought for a second they might have been repurposed for McElhinney's time in Toronto, but that was definitely not the case. And just really just awesome jerseys. And to get his only 2 Leaf jerseys is quite the accomplishment.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I remember when we were doing that Spring Expo recap episode, and you were kind of like, yeah, I didn't really pick up a whole lot of cards. Like I just didn't see a whole lot that really interested me, and you're kind of playing it off as though it was kind of like not like a failure, but just like that is what it is. And then you drop the bomb of, oh yeah, by the way, I got 2 Enroth game worn jerseys from the Leafs. It's like, okay.
I tried to slow play that and sort of keep it a surprise until the last second. So hopefully I did its job. I think so. Because usually I'm so quick to share what I got. And this time I kind of took a play out of your book and kind of just slow played that one. So that was, I think, a good call on that one. And just, yeah, awesome
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, that was awesome. Turning to my number six, again, this is kind of like a cheater category instead of just an individual card, but they obviously go together very, very well because they're essentially the same thing. That being a pair of Jacob Slavin OPC Platinum Golden Treasures cards. The first one being his 2020-21 base Golden Treasures. I got that toward the beginning of this calendar year. Still, I believe to this day, that is the most money that has ever been paid for a Jacob Slavin card. I feel like that auction was very much shilled, but I guess we'll never know. So there's that. So then recently, you guys saw that I also picked up the 2018-19 Retro Golden Treasures. And, with the context of the 2020-21 card that I got earlier this year, I figured that this 18-19 Retro was also going to be really pricey. But fortunately enough for me, I'm very glad that it did not go anywhere near as high as the 2020-21 did. So not to say that it was cheap, because it was definitely still a pretty penny, but definitely I felt like I almost kind of got a steal, if you compare it to the other one. So, but yeah, I mean, just to be able to find both of those cards within the same calendar year is amazing. I mean, and that was the first time I'd even seen the 18-19 one. So, I mean, it took, whatever, 3.5 years for it to turn up. I didn't know if I would ever see it. So the fact that all these years later, it finally did turn up and I was able to get it obviously was great. And yeah, they're really nice cards. It's kind of interesting too. It seems like every year they've kind of adjusted or tinkered with the foil and just kind of like the coloration and stuff too of the golden treasures. I know the 18-19 is kind of more of like a vibrant gold, whereas the 2021 is almost kind of more of like a dull gold. Not that it's like a flat, like it still has that rainbow quality, but they're definitely different, which is really cool. So both golden treasures, but they do still have kind of their unique elements as well.
I'll say it again every time you bring up the OPC Platinum Golden Treasures, but I think they're honestly like, aside from autographs and memorabilia, but it might even be that. Just they're probably my favorite one of ones. Like honestly, they probably are just my favorite out there. Looking at baseball cards and stuff, you see the super refractor and things like that. That's just so cool, and that's been around for years. And then you look at hockey, and I mean, aside from the last couple of years, there wasn't really anything like that. And then so for Upper Deck to come up big and be like, you know what, we're going to sort of create our OPG or our kind of own super refractor and just have these OPG golden treasures there. It's so awesome. I really like that they put those in. And yeah, I'll say it again, like it's probably one of my favorite one of ones of guys. I'm really jealous that some of my guys were never in that in those products, but it is what it is. But like every time I see someone pick it up, I'm just like, man, that is so awesome. And it's part of a giganto rainbow, which some people don't like, but I really like that. It's like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, like literally. And so like that is actually a great analogy, for that rainbow. But anyway, yeah, just so cool. So for you to pick up not one, but two is just awesome. Regular version, retro version, doesn't matter. They're awesome cards. So huge golden congratulations to that. So next up on my list is huge credit to you as well, is the 2013-14 In the Game Between the Pipes one of a kind patches, one of one of Jonas Enroth. Eric was actually a huge reason why I was able to add this card. He got it shipped to me and all that stuff and placed a bid. It was great. Definitely, my wingman on this one for sure. Just a really cool Buffalo Sabres patch from their 40th anniversary jersey. Just an awesome card all around, and just one that I had never seen service until until this year. So that's like what, 8 years after the product dropped. So just pretty cool when you can pick up cards like this that have just been sitting there on the list and just hadn't seen it. So it came up kind of just randomly and was able to pick it up thanks to my co-host here. And yeah, just a huge solid on that one. And yeah, definitely deserves this spot on the top 10 list for this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a beautiful card. I mean, the design is really clean and simple, which then kind of plays into the quality of the patch really nicely as well. Like you said, for those anniversary jerseys and having that almost kind of like a complete logo, squeezed onto that size of a patch window is just really, really cool. So yeah, obviously I was glad to help you land that. And obviously, anytime that I can do something like that, I'm happy to do it. So really glad to see that card went to its proper home. And obviously, like I said, a really nice card as well. For my number 5, this is where on the list we really kind of like take that jump up to the next level. Not that the other stuff isn't nice. I mean, a Vezina Flurry dual memorabilia card, Golden Treasures, like those are all really nice in their own right.
Yeah, you're definitely discounting the Vesna stuff for sure. I mean, the next few on your list for sure are just awesome, but it's kind of hard to discount a Vesna, but I guess that's what we're doing. Like in a weird way, but I'll let you finish. But yeah, just it's hard to discount a Vesna.
True. And I will even say that there's actually a Vezina memorabilia card, actually two, that didn't even make my top 10 list. I feel like I could have
Which is
squeezed.
crazy to me. That's just
Yeah,
like how if you did all Vesna, like I wouldn't even be mad for all these 10.
true. So I definitely could have squeezed them in there if I really had wanted to, but I felt like that definitely would have been cheating in some ways. So I just like, I'm just gonna focus on the better stuff and then kind of change it up, have like the Jalmerson autograph in there and the Topps pristine boxes and stuff rather than just having it kind of be repetitive all throughout. So, but yeah, anyway, for my number 5, we're taking it to a whole other level. And again, it's kind of a category, but I think you guys will appreciate it nonetheless. That being a trio of cards from the Vezina Collection Historical Relics insert set, that being the Pulpboard, Horsehair, and Strap cards. Obviously, all three of those are amazing cards, and the fact that I was able to land all three of those within a really short time frame of each other actually was really cool. So yeah, stunning cards in their own right, but being able to get all three of those for my collection obviously is very exciting and definitely very, very nice cards for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Just, I mean, what do you say? We definitely picked it up another notch with that one for sure. Just an amazing card or set of cards, I should say. And just, yeah, the Vesna collection, every time someone brings it up, you kind of forget how good it was. And then when you mention cards like that or you see cards like that, you're like, oh, yeah, that happened. And that was amazing. So just huge pickups for sure. And just legendary, sections of probably some of the greatest pieces of hockey memorabilia out there. Like I know there's old sticks and things like that out there, but I mean just for someone as iconic as Vesna and arguably his only set of pads he's ever worn is just amazing. You're able to find it and then eventually all these years later create these amazing pieces of memorabilia with it. We'll get to more of that in a moment, but just amazing. Next up on my list is another game used jersey at the number 4 spot. So this one was a really surprise to me. Someone reached out to me on Facebook that I asked if there was any Enroth game used memorabilia around. And they got back to me quite a way after I even asked that question. And they just kind of came out of nowhere with a couple items. And one of them was this item that I managed to pick up. And that is a 2012 Team Sweden national team jersey. Game used by Enroth, and it was used over the course of 2012 in a few international tournaments, and just a really cool piece. Has a lot of wear on it, and just yeah, it's something I never thought I would ever see. I mean, like I know in the NHL, there's McGray or there's team sales and things like that, but I mean, national jersey stuff, like where do you even get that? Like I don't know if there's sort of like a place in Europe that is sort of like a McGray or something like that, or if it's just I don't know, like how this stuff is just released out into the wild. So just it'll forever be a mystery to me how these national teams choose to do that. But just so glad that this jersey was able to end up in my collection. Just I've been a fan of the Team Sweden jerseys for a while, and so obviously to pick one up of your PC player is really awesome, just amazing.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, getting any game worn jersey is really cool, but when it can be something that is really meaningful to the player themselves too, just takes it to that next level. I think any player would tell you that being able to represent their country, regardless of what tournament it is or age group or whatever, is, one of the highlights of their career for sure. So being able to get a piece of that is really, really cool. And, another thing too, I want to just mention while we're talking about Enroth game worn jerseys, there are multiple Enroth game worn jerseys that you got this year that we're not even talking about. So again, that shows you how good of a year you had too.
That's true. That is true. So, I mean, just, yeah, it kind of sums it up. But this one deserves kind of that spot in that list. But yeah, there was, some other ones for sure. Just really, really cool and a really, really solid year.
Yes, absolutely. So turning to my number four, this is a card that is very meaningful to me just for what it is. The players, the design, the process behind it, everything that goes into it is really meaningful to me. So that's why, even if it isn't, monetarily the number four thing on this list, just the significance of it to me in my collection, I think definitely warrants this spot. That being the George Vezina Marc-Andre Fleury trophy winner card that mimics the Vezina collection trophy winner design. And of course, like I mentioned earlier with the solid gold card, Fleury won the Vezina after Vezina collection came out. So this ended up being a made to order that I was able to talk Dr. Price into doing for me well after the product came out. And needless to say, and we talked about this on the episode earlier this year, but the card just came out absolutely spectacular. Being able to pick out that exact Fleury stick piece and getting such an incredible piece of the pad leather for Vezina, with such a small piece, but still having all of that stitching and the folding of the leather and everything is just amazing. So yeah, Dr. Price totally knocked this card out of the park, and definitely an extremely meaningful card for me. And yeah, one that I didn't think would ever happen. I mean, there was no reason for it to ever happen. And the fact that it does now exist is really, really cool, and definitely a really cool card for my collection.
Yeah, you made that thing happen. I mean, it's kind of funny. You kind of came full circle with it, getting the first Vezina card with Fleury, after he won it, and then sort of, retracing those steps and kind of remaking that set with that, made to order card is just awesome. Like, I remember, when you showed it to me, I was like, oh man, like, I can't believe you did that. Like, that was awesome. I know how much of a fan you were of that Vezina collection set. So to sort of have that recreated, just really cool. And obviously again, with Fleury, how could you not like the guy? So just an awesome card for your collection and very, very sweet. Next up on my list, here we are, the top three. So this goes number three on the list, President's Choice Solid Gold Jumbo Memorabilia card 1 of your friend Jonas Enroth. This one has a sweet CCM glove swatch. I'm just a fan of CCM gear. Shout out to Kurt who hit this card in his break and he was able to move on from it. Really awesome guy to deal with all around. He pulled this card for me and just said, hey, it's yours. And I was like, wow, just amazing. Just a huge fan of the card, huge fan of the product. And anytime you can get, a jumbo memorabilia card, you take it, I think, anyway. And just a really awesome card. And yeah, just really nice in person too.
Yeah, an awesome piece for sure. Really cool swatch itself, and kind of from a part of the glove that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you're thinking of a glove card. So even cooler there too. And, like you said, the story behind it too, definitely adds to the whole story with the card, being that our good friend Kurt pulled the card out of one of his boxes. And I remember, literally as soon as he pulled that, boom, he was messaging both of us like, hey, I got this. Aaron, we got to get you this card. So yeah, again, big shout out to Kurt for being a solid dude and valuing that it matters where cards end up. So yeah, just a really cool story all around on that card, and a beautiful card in its own right, like you said. For my number three, I'm finally getting into the game worn jersey sector here to join Aaron. That being my pair of Iowa Heartlanders game worn jerseys of Derek Whitmore. And, you guys heard the story earlier this year, but Derek had been retired from playing for a few years and then came out of retirement just about a year ago, actually, to play for the Iowa Heartlanders of the ECHL. I don't know if he was former teammates or he had some sort of connection to, I think, either the coach or the general manager of the Heartlanders last season. So that's kind of how that all happened. They were really short on players because the Iowa Wild needed to call up some guys to replace guys that the Minnesota Wild had to recall from Iowa. So they were really hurting for players. And in a pinch, they called Derek and just said, "Hey, can you play a game for us?" And he was like, "Sure, why not? I'll drive down." Derek actually, he's an assistant coach for the Chicago Steel of the USHL, and they play just down the road from where I grew up, actually. So it's kind of funny that he now lives, where we met back in the day and everything. But yeah, so, he made the drive down from the Chicago suburbs to Fort Wayne, where they were playing the Fort Wayne Comets that night. Unfortunately, I didn't know about it until it was too late. Otherwise, I definitely would have been there. But yeah, years in retirement, comes out, plays a game, just really cool. And then fast forward a few weeks, same thing happens again. They're short on players. They need somebody. They call him up. He drives down to, this time, Indy. And again, I didn't find out until it was too late. Otherwise, I definitely would have made the 2-hour drive. But that's not the important part. The important part is, these jerseys are hugely significant in the sense that they're the last two jerseys that presumably he will ever have worn during his playing career. So, being able to get a hold of the Heartlanders and work with them directly to get these jerseys for my collection was a really fun and cool process. And, like I said, obviously just hugely, hugely important pieces of memorabilia for sure. So yeah, just really cool jerseys in their own right too. I love the look of them. Kind of that black, gray, and bright yellow is just not really a combo that you see super often in professional sports, at least in hockey anyway. So just cool in that regard too. And the logo is really cool, and just really cool jerseys, and like I said, very meaningful for sure as well.
Absolutely. I mean, just the story to go along with those jerseys are just awesome. I mean, you hear of certain milestones. I mean, like we just talked about, he wore this jersey doing this or that or whatever, but just the whole story around it, that these jerseys shouldn't really exist. These game used jerseys of him, like the story shouldn't have happened. Like the guy was done, right? And then the fact that he was able to come back, like out of retirement and, play really well. I mean, that is awesome. Like that is awesome.
Yeah, he
And
did he
just
did score a highlight reel goal in that indie game too.
I
So
remember when you showed me that replay, it was amazing. So to not only find, again, another game used jersey, okay, that's really cool. But to find out a jersey that, due to the unlikeliness of this story even taking place, and of course, he plays well in these jerseys, and the fact that, it's a kind of a one-off jersey, the team's probably just going to recycle them, or whatever it is. For these lower end teams, it's they need their jerseys and they're not going to give them away, or it's very hard to sort of find out how to get them, if at all. So all these things kind of coming together, both the home and away, is just so cool. All right, so me, number two. Number two. All right, we're getting there. Number two, and then after that, guess what? It's number one. Okay, so number two, another President's Choice card. Wow, Brian is going to be super happy when he hears this episode. I think we're going to have him on the very next episode, actually. So that should be very fun, breaking some in the crease. But anyway, number two, President's Choice from the Vezina collection. Finally getting on board onto the Vezina train with Eric. He almost left me at the station. I climbed on the back rail car with the steps, in the movies. They always like attempt to throw someone off the last rail car, just it's very intense. So I got on that, and I'm hitching a ride on the Vezina collection train. Anyway, so from the Vezina collection, you guessed it, a Vezina game used pad card with Olaf Kosling. Very cool. From the trophy winners set. Just awesome. You've heard about this card, or this set really, and then now I'm jumping on board there. So just an awesome card. It's my very first game used Vezina piece, and just what a piece it is, with a cool stitching in there. Just awesome. Just to hold a piece of this in your hands is something really, really special. I'm a big fan of old things. And so, something like this is just truly one of a kind. Like, I know how cool it is, but I think it's really going to hit once there's kind of no more memorabilia left to go around, whenever that is. And I think then you're going to be like, okay, this is the landscape of Vezina memorabilia. And, you're lucky to sort of have a piece of that. And just a really cool card in person. And just so glad that I was able to add this to my goalie collection. Just a stunning card. And just to get anything of Vezina, I mean, nothing more really needs to be said.
Definitely a card that I can appreciate for sure. And one thing I'll add about this card too, you talked about the quality of the Vesna piece in particular on this card, and I've certainly seen quite a few cards from that trophy winner set, and I can definitely tell you that that specific Vesna piece is among the very nicest that I've seen on any of the trophy winner cards. So, maybe you might say, well, Kolzig isn't the biggest name. I mean, he was a very good goalie for sure. I know as a goalie that you really liked, which is really cool. And obviously the jersey piece on him on the card is really nice as well. But yeah, I mean, just being able to track down and acquire one of the, like I said, in my opinion, one of the very nicest copies for a Vesna memorabilia piece in that set, definitely a great piece for your collection for sure. So I was really glad when you got that card, and like you said, you joined the Vesna train for sure. So that was really fun. My number two, this is a card that you guys just saw really recently, and I'll start out by giving a huge shout out again to Aaron. Without Aaron, this never would have happened. And seriously, just a huge thank you to Aaron for this because yeah, like he totally made this happen. And like I said, without him, never would happen. So that being, like I said, you guys just saw it a couple episodes ago, that being the 2000-2001 Be a Player memorabilia, Vesna memorabilia V16 pad card of George Vesna. And, I think this is one of those cards that most people are aware of it, and a lot of people understand the significance of it. And, certainly I did. But then when you actually have one, it's just like, I don't even know how to put it into words. It's such a special card because the significance that that card holds within the history of the hockey card hobby. Obviously, back at the time, it was a hugely polarizing card, one of the very biggest chase cards ever in hobby history. And, certainly at that point. And again, just the significance of Dr. Price getting the pads, putting them in cards, it was just unfathomable at that point. And even still 20, 21 and a half years later, just a monster of a card. And that significance will never go away from the card. It doesn't matter how far into the future we go, that's always going to be the first card that was a Vesna memorabilia card. That's just what it is. Looking at that set as a whole, there's obviously 16 cards in the set, but this, of course, being the kind of the most desirable of the 16, being that it's just George Vesna on the card, whereas the other 15 featured a Vesna trophy winner as well. So, there were Hasek and Wah, cards like that. So, but the V16 is special in the sense that it's Vesna only. And you guys might remember from earlier this year when we had our episode of, what are our most wanted cards? That was what I had at number one. So the fact that I was able to find one and get one this same year was awesome. But the story behind it, like you guys heard a couple episodes ago, was just awesome. Aaron kind of just stumbling upon it at the expo and saying, hey, check this out. And then me being like, well, now wait a minute. Like, let's see if we can actually pull this off. And then actually pulling it off. Yeah, and just a spectacular card in person. Scans are nice, pictures are nice, but being able to hold what is truly a piece of hockey history and hockey card history in your hand is just, it's really hard to beat. And, again, the fact that this is number two, that tells you the kind of year that I had. And, a lot of you probably already know what number one is, but if you don't, you'll see why this is number two. But yes, the fact that I was able to get this card for my collection is just amazing, and couldn't have asked for a nicer copy. I wanted to be really picky about the specific copy, get a nice leather piece, ideally with some stitching, and obviously the card that Aaron found totally hit that out of the park for sure. So not much else to say about it. I won't ramble on too much, but just a hugely significant card and one that I am exceedingly grateful to have in my collection.
And if I will say another thing about the card, it belonged to Vesna's grandson, which is like, that's just so cool. Just amazing. Just cool little family ties there, which is always really something. Yeah, just a stunning card. I'm really glad that I was able to find it. And I kind of slow played it. I saw it in the display case and I, low key took a picture of it and sent it off to you. And I'm just like, oh, hey, look what I found. Just a couple cool things. No big deal. Knowing that you would be like, oh man, look at that thing. Like, who knew that it would be there? Just amazing. And then it's like, hey, like, can you make a deal for it? And it's like, happy to do it. So really glad that it arrived safe and sound, and just what an incredible card. Just really just a piece of history, just having the origins of that story and the controversy, surrounding that purchase at the time. And then having these cards kind of come to light, as sort of the first game used Vesna stuff. It was, his pads and all that. It was just a really like wild time in the hobby. And this set, this card in particular was, sort of the first evidence of that, appearing in hockey cards, which a lot of people, like even today, are on one or the other side of it, whether, you should have kept the pieces intact or, distributed them to the masses in cards like these. So yeah, see, it's great. Like you're showing a picture of it now, and it's awesome. Just really, really cool. I personally am biased, and I think, it was okay to cut them up and so that collectors can enjoy them, for decades. But that's just me. But just an amazing card. And I'm just really glad that I was able to help you buy this thing, and just really glad that we made this thing work. So just an iconic card in more ways than one. And I still can't believe it's number two, but I guess we'll get to number one in a moment. For my number one, if I could finish my countdown here, number one for the year is a very, very new card. Just received it this past week. It is from the President's Choice in the Crease product. It is the complete logo card, NHL Shields of Jonas Enroth. Obviously a one of one, just a true one of a kind card. It is his first game used Shield card. The other Shield cards are, of course, from the Cup in the rookie year set there. So not game used, unfortunately, but this is, first of its kind, and just an awesome design card. The vertical Shield cards are kind of rare nowadays. So just to get one here is just like really outstanding. So just an awesome card, and just couldn't have asked for anything better, to be honest. Just, for me, it's maybe I'm over exaggerating, but to me, it's like the perfect card. It's just stunning in every way. And yeah, to get a card of this magnitude sort of in the later half, or the later years, I guess I should say, of Enroth's career, to sort of be in, a prominent cardboard set is just really cool. It's not the opportunity that a lot of players get, especially if there's some collectors who've been in the game a while. Eventually, the cards that you're collecting just sort of die out, and to sort of get one last giant kick at the can for something like this is just really, really cool. So shout out to Dr. Price, which will be talking to Zero about the product next episode, but just a really, really awesome card. So glad that I was able to land it.
No doubt. I mean, a huge, huge card for your collection. And like you said, the significance, being that it's the only game used shield of his is really, really cool. And being able to find it and acquire it so shortly after release, obviously, I'm sure was a very good feeling for you. And, I know when I first got the checklist from Dr. Price, and was kind of leafing through all of the insert sets and seeing just how many Enroth cards there were, I knew you would be really excited about that. But then also, like you said, there are a lot of really significant pieces in the product. So, and obviously none bigger than that shield. So the fact that you were able to acquire that for your collection, obviously very, very exciting, and certainly very much deserving of that number one spot for you for sure. So definitely a great way to round out your list, and a great way to round out your collecting year too. I know you just got the card, so I don't know how much better you could really do for kind of a year-end pickup there for sure. So very exciting for sure. And like I said, glad that you were able to track that one down. For my number one, finishing it all off, again, this is kind of cheating a little bit because it's a category, but the category being the mail day. And you guys hopefully have seen and heard that episode at this point, but the cards just speak for themselves. There's really not a whole lot else you can really say. Once you see them and know about them, it's just like, yep, nothing else needs to be said. They are what they are. So that being both of them, George Vezina cards. The first one, a President's Choice Lace 'em Up featuring skate laces, and just, of course, an incredible piece. I always say that this is, in my opinion, the coolest card that I own. Just so unique. You just don't see Vezina skate lace material very often. To the best of my knowledge, I think there's only 3 or maybe 4 cards that feature skate lace, and most of those have very small pieces. So to have this much of the skate laces intact is really miraculous, honestly. So just an incredibly cool piece there. And then the second, of course, being again, from President's Choice, of course, a made to order historical relics card that features a nail from the blade of his stick. And we talked about this at the time, but how they made goalie sticks back in the day was they just took a player stick and literally nailed on an extra piece of wood onto the stick to form the shape of the goalie stick. And this being one of those nails that was used to create the goalie stick. So again, just an incredibly cool and unique card. This is one that I say is potentially the most unique memorabilia card that you'll ever see in your entire life, just because where else are you going to see a nail in a card? I mean, you don't see that. You just don't see it. And it's also the scarcest memorabilia type for Vezina, with there only being one other one. And yeah, just, like I said, I won't blabber on and on about them because they speak for themselves and they don't really need, a whole lot of explanation and stuff like that. But huge shout out to our friend Mike Miller for letting those go out of his collection. I know it took months and months and months of me badgering him to let them go, and fortunately for me, he was willing to let them go eventually. And yeah, very grateful that he was willing to do that. And 2 just absolute cornerstone pieces of my collection for sure. So, I know I said it last year in 2021, but I don't see a way that I can have a better year in the hobby after this. I mean, especially with those number 1 and number 2, I just don't know how it's possible to top those. With these 2 cards just being incredibly unique, and then of course adding the V16, which is one of the most desirable memorabilia cards out there in my opinion. I don't know how you beat it. So I hope one day maybe I do, but if I don't, I will, be more than satisfied with knowing that 2022 was probably my biggest year in the hobby.
I remember when first hearing about, these kinds of cards and just being like, seeing one for the first time, just being like, what is that? Like a nail? Like, why? That's so weird. And then just hearing about how goalie sticks were constructed back then, which I didn't even know, and just being like, whoa, like you'll never see that again. It's just amazing. I mean, there really isn't much to be said. It's sort of like a anticlimactic number 1, we don't have this crazy reaction because it's like, what could you really say? It's just such a unique memorabilia piece, and one that like I don't think you'll ever see again. I don't know if there's any more nails left for cards like these, but even if there is, it's just no, there isn't. So just amazing. Like you will never see this again. It's in your collection of such an iconic player. Is just pure gravy, and just an amazing way to finish off the top 10 of 2022. And it might be hard to beat. It'll be impossible to beat it, but it'll be interesting to see how 2023 stacks up with your pickups from 2022. Speaking of 2023, we're just going to go through, just to end off the quick episode here, about our kind of goals going into the new year. So I'll just start off the top. I did complete my goal this year of reaching the 700 card milestone. So this year I'm just going to set it at 750. We'll see if I get there. If I do, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. And the next 2 goals are pretty much the same. I'd like to actually finish my Upper Deck 300 Win Club set, maybe expand my vintage card collection of goalies by a card or 2, and just have fun in the process. I think it's pretty simple for the next year. So we'll see what I can accomplish.
For sure, yeah. I mean, obviously you've got some that are easier to accomplish than others. Obviously, the 300 Win Club set will probably be tough again. It obviously didn't happen this year, so maybe next year will be the year. But yeah, I mean, it's a good range of stuff. The 750 for the Enroth collection, is probably going to be somewhat tough at this point, but it's still attainable. You never know what you might find.
And duplicates can be included. So I'm not really expecting to pick up 50 unique cards. That would be quite impossible.
Right. But I mean, there's still in the crease cards that you need, and I'm sure you can probably find a way to do it. It'll just be interesting to see what that might look like. But yeah, and then expanding the vintage goalie card collection, I think that's probably kind of like the fun one. I mean, obviously have fun is the have fun one, but of the three kind of like tangible things, I think that's kind of like the most fun one just because it's a very open-ended and kind of like broad category that really allows you to kind of just say, let's see what happens and I'll see what I find and kind of just go from there. So, I know like last year you got the C55 card for your collection, which was super cool. So who knows? Maybe you'll get a C56 this year or something. Who knows?
Who knows?
And then, of course, have fun. Obviously, that's really important. For my goals, I'm going to kind of just recycle a couple from last year or from this year for 2023. First one being finishing at least one notable 0304 set. At this point, I feel like it's probably going to be Premier Collection. That's probably the more likely of the two that I mentioned earlier, just because those three RPAs are just far easier to find than the Ultimate Memorabilia limited autographs. So, maybe it'll be Premier Collection, but maybe there will be something that surprises me that I just have a lot of luck with in 2023 and am able to finish. But it would be really nice to accomplish that in 2023 and just kind of feel like I'm really making progress toward that collection again. As you guys saw during the countdown, a lot of my focus and resources went into Vezina stuff in 2022 and just kind of took that attention away from the 0304 Master Collection, which is perfectly fine. I would not change, what I did in 2022 at all. Certainly very glad with what I got and what I did. But, I think one thing for 2023 will just kind of be turning back the focus to the 0304 stuff, in addition to what I, always collect, Jalmerson, Slave, and Dzingel, all my players and stuff. But, as far as kind of like the project element, kind of more turning back to 0304 stuff and really focusing on just chipping away on that again, I think will be really fun and just kind of another nice change of pace to get back to that. And then, like I said earlier as well, getting my office set up. Certainly hopeful that I can get the repair work done this year. And that will then allow me to get my office set up how I would like, because it's still just a mess from when we moved into our house, like, 16 months ago or so. So still got some work to do in that regard, but I'm certainly hopeful that I can get that done in 2023 and be able to enjoy my office a lot more, because right now it's kind of just like I just come in here, when we're recording or when I need to do card stuff, but I don't really come in here to necessarily just like enjoy being in here, which is kind of where I want to get with it. Just be able to walk in and enjoy looking at nice cards and jerseys and stuff like that. So definitely a goal for 2023 for sure. I think that's pretty much all we have for this episode, and we won't ramble on too much. And one thing I will say, if you guys want to share some of your top pickups for 2022, or if you guys had 2022 hobby goals and resolutions, or if you have 2023 hobby goals and resolutions, be sure to reach out to us on social media and tell us about those. We would love to hear about it. Love to see some cards, whatever it might be. So please be sure to do that. We always love interacting with you guys on social media and hearing about, whatever cool hobby related stuff you guys have got going on as well. So please be sure to do that. And with that, please be sure to follow us on social media while you're letting us know about your pickups and goals and resolutions. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Center Ice Cardcast, and on Twitter at Center Ice CC. Please also be sure to subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice to make sure you never miss a future episode. Until next time on Center Ice Cardcast, keep collecting those hockey cards.